So today I want to build off of the conversation in my last video a little bit when talking about the release cadence for brand new games for the Nintendo Switch 2 in this next generation era for Nintendo. Of course, in my last video, I was focused on Donkey Kong Bonanza, which comes out this next upcoming week, just a few days from today, which of course is super crazy exciting. But I also want to talk big picture when we look at the rest of 2025, when we look at next year, 2026, and even all of the years beyond 2026. The general concept I'm getting at here, and I'm sure I'll title the video something along these lines, is what success, quote unquote, would actually look like for the Switch 2. The general perception of Nintendo's new device, the Switch 2 in years 1, 2, 3, 5, 6, however long it lasts. This is what success for Nintendo and the Switch 2 has looked like. Now, of course, before I dissect this too much further, I need to mention that overall, this is definitely a subjective kind of discussion, right? Because success to one person might not be the same as success to another person, which also might not be the same as success to even Nintendo, of course. But I think that talking big picture, high level here, I think that in general, there is some sort of level of consensus on what people would see as success versus what people would see as a lack of success or even something like a failure for the Switch 2. And so to not bury the lead any further, what do I think that kind of consensus level success would look like for the Switch 2? What would most people say is success for the Switch 2 and would even lead to Nintendo's perception of success? I think it's if the Switch 2 can maintain, I would say, a cadence of 2 to 4 fairly high-profile, exclusive, first-party titles every single year that it exists. And when you look at what Nintendo achieved with the Switch, the original Switch from 2017 to this year 2025, which are the years that it's the only console on the market by Nintendo. Obviously, the original Switch, as I've said many times, will still continue to be sold and produced for the next few years. There will be 2 or 3 years of overlap between the Switch and the Switch 2. But you look at the years where it was the only console that Nintendo was making, 2017 to 2025, Nintendo found a way to pretty much create that exact same business model. There were multiple exclusive games, usually first party. Sometimes they were titles Nintendo was just publishing. Then there was the occasional third party exclusive, like Octopath Traveler was exclusive at the time that released. Eventually it went multi-platform, but for the first few years it was only a Switch 1 game. And so Nintendo managed that kind of cadence for the Switch. So if they manage to adopt that same strategy for the Switch 2, which we are already seeing proof of in just 2025 alone, then I think that the Switch 2 will be seen as a success pretty much across the board. I keep bringing it up in pretty much every video since the Switch 2 has come out, but it needs to be constantly reaffirmed and doubled down on, I think, because I don't know that everyone really understands this, as even evidenced by my last video, talking about people unwilling to recognize that the Switch 2 is still brand new. It's only like 4.5 weeks old, and we're just on the cusp of the next big game with Donkey Kong. But we have to look at 2025, you guys. There are so many games Nintendo is releasing between June of 2025 and December of 2025 that we know about currently, because we have to leave room for a couple of surprises that might still pop in before the year is over. But in 2025 alone, we already know that they're releasing Mario Kart World, because that's out. Donkey Kong comes out next week. Metroid Prime 4, a massive release, is coming out in 2025. There's a new Pokemon game, which of course is cross-generation. Hyrule Warriors is currently slated as winter, which might mean 2026, but very likely could also mean 2025. Daemon X Machina, which is not exclusive, is still coming to the Switch 2 this year in 2025. And there's even Kirby Air Riders 2. Whatever happens with that game, if that sticks to 2025, that is a really strong release of high-profile titles, including several Nintendo first-party titles releasing in 2025 alone. So what a great way to start off the launch year. And so let's say that there's no other surprise big titles for 2025. So we know we get a new Mario Kart, a new Metroid, a new Donkey Kong, and a new Pokemon, and a new Kirby game. You know, we get those 5 titles, Hyrule Warriors being a spin-off, but still. That's a lot of first-party IP to release in the launch year of a new console, which, by the way, again, released in June, almost halfway through the year itself. So you're removing half of 2025 already, just by default, based on when it released. And so what happens in 2026, 27, and 28? Well, we're still waiting for the new 3D Mario game. There's going to be a new mainline Zelda game at some point. It's probably still 2 or 3, 4 years away, but it's going to come. You know, there's going to be a new main Kirby game. We're going to get a new Smash Brothers game. We're going to get a new Animal Crossing game. We're going to get a new Fire Emblem game. We're going to get a new Luigi's Mansion game. We might get a new Pikmin game. Maybe F-Zero or Star Fox come back. I mean, even another 2D Metroid game like Metroid 6, not even Prime 4 itself. So you start realizing, you look at the pantheon of Nintendo first-party titles, and we're not even talking about third parties and exclusives made by third-party companies, because the Duskbloods is already coming exclusively to the Switch in 2026. So if you just take that collection of first-party titles and franchises I just listed that haven't yet been announced for the Switch 2, you could take any 2 or 3 of those and plop those into 2026, 27, 28, 29, and you can fill out. And there's even 2D Mario games, by the way. I don't know if I said that, but I know I mentioned the 3D Mario games. You can parse those out over the next several years, 5 to 6 years of the Switch 2's life. And if you've got 2 to 4, like I said at the beginning, 2 to 4 high-profile first-party and exclusive titles releasing for the Switch 2 throughout the life of the console for the next 5 or 6 years, that has to be a success just in terms of the games library. And what have we learned when it comes to a strong exclusive library that is consistent throughout the life of your console, with the one exception being the Wii U, unfortunately? We've learned that leads to sales success. So there's the gamer's perception of success and the industry's perception of success, which would be, you have a bunch of exclusive titles releasing every year, so this console is a success. But then there's the financial and the business side of it, which is it selling well, and is it generating money and profit for the company, which you and I don't really care about, but Nintendo certainly is going to care about. Well, if they release 2 to 4 big exclusive titles every year, then every console except for the Wii U shows us that will lead to sales success. And I only bring up the Wii U because I don't care what anyone says, the library for the Wii U was fantastic. There were so many wonderful, kick-ass, exclusive, first-party and third-party titles releasing every year for the Wii U. It didn't sell well because of all these unfortunate reasons, but so that's why I bring up the Wii U, is because I'm not saying the Wii U didn't have a great exclusive library. It absolutely did. It just didn't sell well. So it is the one anomaly amongst all of the other Nintendo consoles, and even, you know, the 360 when it was very successful, most of the PlayStation consoles. In general, when you see a video game console have a strong lineup, a strong exclusive lineup, and a regular release cadence every single year of good exclusive games, those machines will sell well. The Switch obviously proved it. The Switch 2, I think, will continue to do the same, because when we know Nintendo values their first-party exclusive IP, again, 2025 is already showing us this, and I think all these other franchises, Smash Brothers, Animal Crossing, 3D Mario, 2D Mario, The Legend of Zelda, and Metroid 6, 2D Metroid games, you keep all of these games releasing every single year for the next 5 to 6 years, the Switch 2 will be a big hit. And so I think, to just wrap this quick video and conversation up, the main reason I wanted to talk about this is to also express that this is what I believe will happen, right? And again, it's also why it builds off of that last video where people 4 or 5 weeks into the Switch 2 being on the market are already starting to lose hope and lose faith, and oh my god, it's just Mario Kart, where are the games? Even though Donkey Kong comes out next week, right? So it's a way for me to kind of reestablish my opinions and remind you guys that the Switch 2 is brand new, and we only have evidence that shows us they're going to be releasing a ton of exclusive games. And just wait till it's 2027 or 28, and we have, 2, 3, 4 years worth of the Switch 2 behind us to look at and assess. And we'll say, wow, they released like 3 or 4 huge games every single year, on top of all the indie games and third-party multi-platform games that continue to get released as well. They've released so many great games that, of course, the Switch 2 has been fantastic. Remember when it was early July 2025 and the Switch 2 had only been out for 4 weeks, and I was crying about the fact that I didn't have enough to play on the Switch 2 and it was going to be a bad console? Boy, wasn't I silly. That's what a lot of people are going to be saying in 2027 and 2028. I hope you guys in the future, in 2028, come back to this video in July of 2025, which will be ancient history to you future people, and you see what I was saying at this point in time and how right I was. You just got to give the console time, and the Switch 2 will maintain its sales success and its success in the perception and the eyes of the gamer if they continue to release all of these great games. Smash Brothers games, Mario games, Zelda games, Animal Crossing, Fire Emblem, Metroid, Kirby, yada yada, blah 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 blah. They're gonna keep coming every year. I'm sure will be great. Nintendo is a smart company. They're the only ones who seem to be smart enough to understand how to do this and how to capture that specific kind of success that Microsoft and now kind of Sony as well are slowly starting to walk away from, and I think it's going to hurt them in the long run. As much as I'm a fan of them and I enjoy all the consoles and I want everyone to succeed, we see them going down what I think is the wrong path, and Nintendo seems to be staying the course, and they're going to maintain a level of success that I don't think the other guys will be matching in another 5 years. Just a guess. I hope I'm wrong. It's just a guess. We'll see how it plays out. So that's what I have to say. Hopefully this all made sense. Just wanted to kind of riff a little bit about what I think the idea of success will look like for the Switch 2 in years down the road, here at the very, very beginning of the Switch 2's life. So that being said, Donkey Kong is in a few days. I can't freaking wait. I just got to beat Death Stranding 2 sometime this week so I can have all my time freed up to play Donkey Kong. What a time to be alive and to be a Nintendo fan. So yeah, thanks for watching. Share your thoughts below, and I'll see you next time.